Hello everybody, my name is Brandon. Welcome back to the channel. So I'm here today to talk about the long-awaited, much-hyped Zack Snyder version of Justice League. So as you guys surely know, Warner Brothers finally released, after years of fans demanding it, they finally released the Snyder Cut of Justice League this past weekend on HBO Max. So I honestly wasn't even sure if I was going to be able to watch this weekend because it is a long movie. It is 4 hours and 2 minutes long. So I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to fit it into my weekend, but things kind of freed up a little bit, and I was fortunate enough that I was able to watch it, and I am so glad that I did, because this thing was epic to the max and so incredible. So I am one of those rare people that actually enjoyed the Whedon cut of, or I guess I'll call it the theatrical cut of Justice League back when that released in theaters in 2017. So I know Thor Ragnarok came out right around the same time, and I remember that my wife, my sister, and I, we all went to see Thor Ragnarok, and then, I don't know, a couple weeks later, whatever it was, we ended up going to see Justice League, and I liked them both quite a bit. I gave them both 3.5 stars, and at that time Cinefessions, the website cinefessions.com, was using a 4-star scale, so I would have probably given it a 4 out of 5 if I was using Letterboxd, which frankly I probably have a score on Letterboxd. I should have checked, but yeah, so I enjoyed the heck out of it. I thought it was a fun movie, but this Snyder Cut version of this is just, it's a completely different film. Now, I'll admit that I have not seen the Whedon cut of Justice League since I saw it in theaters back in 2017. So I don't really remember too much of it, but I remember some scenes in there that just aren't here. And then obviously there are a ton of different things that are in this Snyder version that are not in the original theatrical cut of Justice League. But Snyder goes in and adds so much to this that it is a wonder to behold. So obviously you know what Justice League is about, but if not, it is basically just the formation of this League of Heroes, this Justice League. So we have Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman, and then of the three new players here, we get Aquaman, the Flash, and Cyborg. So obviously, you know, the first 3 characters I mentioned, they have their own movies with Wonder Woman, Man of Steel, and then Batman versus Superman. That's where we learned their stories. And then Aquaman had a movie come out after this one released, the original theatrical cut, in 2018. So that's his origin story. So here we're really focusing more on the origin of the Flash and Cyborg. And honestly, the Flash is, you do get a bit more than in the theatrical cut, but really this is Cyborg's origin story. Like, it's the formation of the Justice League, but it's also Cyborg's time to shine. And with this Snyder cut, it adds in so much of his backstory. It just makes his character so much more interesting, so much more relatable, and frankly, a very heartwarming story in there, just kind of a devastating story in there. It's just, there's so much going on with him, and I'm so happy to now have learned that. And it just brings so much more emotional depth to that character. I care more about him. And then with the Flash, we get more of the story of him and his father, which is just, again, it's touching. It just feels so genuine. And that's kind of what the whole film, it is very dark. It is very grim, but there are just these moments of hope and these moments of love and caring in here that stand out amongst this darkness and this grittiness, and it makes those moments feel so much more precious because of that. Much like the comedy, this is dark. It is not a Marvel Cinematic Universe film. It is the Snyderverse, right? A return to the Snyderverse, and because of that, you don't get a ton of humor, and I think it's even lesser here than it was with the Whedon cut of the film. But really, the only kind of moments of levity you get are with Flash. And so that's one of the main reasons I love Flash so much. And he plays just such an expanded role in this film, which again reminded me of the DC animated universe. Like, he is so pivotal to this movie as it progresses. And his story is just so well done, much like Cyborg's. So with these excellent heroes, you have to have a villain, a super villain that stands up to them and is believable. And here you have Steppenwolf, who I think is just an amazing villain. I think he is so much stronger here than he is in the the Whedon cut of the film, because there's just more to him, and you can really see how evil he really is. But as evil as he is, right, just like as evil as Darth Vader is, you have the Emperor. Well, as evil as Steppenwolf is, you have Darkseid kind of looking over him. And so just the evil villains in this are amazing. And unlike with Batman versus Superman, where it felt like there was just too much, too many, here it tones it down. You have Steppenwolf, and then you have Darkseid. It's really a Steppenwolf film, and it works so well because of how evil he is. He is just the, complete antithesis of all of this force of good that you have with the Justice League. So it works really well. I think the biggest unexpected gain to this film was just the emotional impact it was going to have on me. Like, I'll admit it, I was in tears at points watching some of these moments because they were just so beautifully done. Because you have 4 hours of runtime here, there's a lot of room to indulge a little bit in those more powerful and personal moments. So you get that a lot with Cyborg, but you really get it with Superman and Lois Lane, and then his mother. Those moments, they stretch out throughout basically the entire film, but it works really well. It's super well paced, and it just makes me care for these characters so much more than I thought I could. And because of that, the emotional punch that's delivered, it's just remarkable. So I thought that was kind of the most unexpected thing about this film, was how well Snyder was able to handle the emotional impact of the movie. One thing I will mention, talking about kind of some of those indulgences that you get here, because this is a 4-hour runtime, it's a little unfair to really compare it to the Whedon cut, because Whedon's version had to fit into a theatrical runtime, and there is zero chance that Warner Brothers was going to allow Zack Snyder to cut a film that's 4 hours and 2 minutes long and then stick it in theaters. That just wouldn't happen. So if this movie was going to theaters, Snyder would have had to have made some more cuts, but because we get it here on HBO Max, he is allowed to indulge in those moments, and it just works so much better thanks to that. I am so happy that Warner Brothers has finally decided to allow Snyder to, film this and release it. So if you don't know a little bit about like the backstory to what happened here, basically Snyder was doing all the shooting and everything was going well enough, I guess. I don't know why I said that. I have no idea how it was going, I guess. But basically what happened is a tragedy happened in Snyder's family. I guess his daughter ended up committing suicide, and so he stepped down. They brought in Whedon, and then Josh Whedon's role kind of grew and grew and grew. Eventually, he was supposed to just be doing the post of the film, but that became, that and then more. He started doing reshoots, and then you get just genuinely a completely different movie than you get here with Snyder's version of Justice League. But again, Whedon had to fit this into a shorter amount of time than Snyder is allowed here. But that still doesn't make up for some of the things, some of the changes that Whedon made. It's just something to keep in mind when you're talking about these two films and trying to compare them. It's not apples to apples. It's really apples to oranges. So just something to keep in mind. Another thing that I thought was really interesting here is that Snyder breaks this movie down into 6 parts, but then there's an epilogue at the end, and the epilogue is quite lengthy. Like, I'll be honest, I thought the movie was going to end like 3 or 4 times before the credits actually rolled, but that's not a criticism at all. I really enjoyed that aspect of it because I wanted the movie to keep going. It was doing so much so well. I figured, hey, if there's another scene, let it happen. I'm down. But one of the cool scenes at the end, there's like this, almost like a No Man's Land, if you've read that graphic novel series or comic book run of Batman, or like Injustice, if you played that video game. But it felt very similar to that. And they bring in Jared Leto's Joker, which I thought was just fascinating. Watching him in this 3 to 4 minutes of screen time, I thought was so much better than anything he did in Suicide Squad. And I am a huge fan of Suicide Squad, so that's saying something when I say that. But yeah, I thought he was excellent here, and that just gets me so excited for the future of this franchise. I've always enjoyed it, but now if Snyder is here and back, and with how much hype this has been getting and how well it's been received, Warner Brothers would be idiotic not to take advantage of this and let Snyder take back the helm and finish out his the Snyderverse of this DCEU. So I hope that happens. This is a movie that is just, there's so much in here that I could go on and on about all of the different parts, all these different crazy moments, the action, everything like that. But I'm going to try to keep my thoughts concise and I'll leave it there. One thing I do want to mention though is that this is on HBO Max, so there's not a physical version of this at this point. And I thought the Dolby Atmos track was the only thing that I thought was a little bit disappointing here. It didn't rumble my house like I hoped it would, and it didn't really give too much of the immersion of like the height. I didn't feel that at all. Now, like I always say, like I am using a sound bar, so I don't have the best setup to judge something like that. But in the past, in other movies, I'm able to feel that height, and here I wasn't. So that was a little bit disappointing. But I thought everything else was fine in terms of the mixing. Like I didn't lose any of the vocals at all, any of the dialogue. I thought that was done well. It was just, it felt muted, which that was pretty disappointing. And I'll mention it just because everyone's probably talking about it. It's the 4:3 aspect ratio, so you have the bars on the left and right side of your screen. Now, the reason that Whedon did this is because he was trying to preserve the IMAX aspect ratio that he shot some of the scenes in. If you watch something on 4K, like, or even Blu-ray, I believe, something like The Dark Knight, Nolan filmed some scenes in IMAX, and so the film will have black bars at the top and bottom for some scenes, but then when they go to the IMAX scenes, it'll fill your entire screen. Here, Snyder just decided that he didn't want that to flip like that, so he just kept it all in that 4:3, which is as close as you can get to that IMAX screen ratio. So that's why he ended up going with that square look. And honestly, like, I think this is such a non-issue. I stopped noticing it 10 minutes in, and it meant nothing to me. It didn't seem like I was losing any picture or any visual data at all, which I wasn't. It's just such a non-issue, but I wanted to talk about it just in case there's any more discussion about it down in the comments below. My thoughts are that it's a non-issue, and it didn't do anything to hinder my enjoyment of the film in the least. Zack Snyder's Justice League is an improvement in virtually every aspect on the original theatrical cut of this movie, and frankly, it should be, with the runtime that was given and kind of the build-up to this. So he's probably thinking about the changes he wanted to make, the reshoots he wanted to do, things like that. So it should be a better film, and fortunately, it delivers. This is an excellent superhero film. Yes, it's dark. Yes, it's gritty, but if you don't like that, you have the Marvel Cinematic Universe to counter that. Fortunately, we live in a world where we don't have to choose one or the other, and myself, I don't. I love both of these. As much as I love the DC Extended Universe, I love Marvel for its lighter tones, its humor. I love that aspect of it. But every once in a while, I'm fine with the darker, grittier, more serious tone of the DC Extended Universe, and the Snyderverse in particular is excellent. I love it very much. So I ended up giving Zack Snyder's Justice League 5 out of 5 stars. But those are just my thoughts on this movie, and I would love to hear yours down in the comments below. Let me know what star rating you ended up giving Snyder's Justice League down there, and let's talk more about the film, because I think there's so much here to unpack that I would love having more of that conversation with you guys down in those comments below. If you guys enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like down below, and consider subscribing to Cinefessions here on YouTube. And if not, well, thanks for watching this one. I really do appreciate that. And like I always say, I don't just talk movies, I talk all things media, be it books, movies, video games, graphic novels. If it's media related, I'm interested in it, and if you are too, you might consider subscribing. Alright guys, so that is going to do it for today. I just want to say thank you all so much for watching, and I want to encourage you to consume some media today. I'll catch you next time.